Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? I'm Michael.
Kalen.
And we are failures.
Yes.
The date is December 18th. You have not heard from us from over a month. Last time you heard from us, we were supposed to be watching bad movies for No Good Movie November.
Yeah, the last time you heard from us, we did Quigley.
Yeah, we did quickly. We discovered Gary Busey is a sex pest live. So, after that, following weekend, we were supposed to gather together and watch Gods of Egypt together. And just record the podcast after, and it'd be like our favorite YouTube channel, Red Letter Media, like when they do Best of the Worst. This is kind of what inspired our idea. They'll watch usually 3 or 4 terrible movies all in one day, and then they have like a panel discussion afterwards.
Apparently, that takes a very strong mind to do.
They are hardier than we.
Yeah, we were seriously lacking that day. Let me tell you how my day started. So I wake up and I'm like, okay, we got to do the podcast tonight. I'm thinking that we're doing Dragon Ball Evolution. And so I put on Dragon Ball Evolution, and that movie is just 2 hours of straight horseshit. And I couldn't take it. And my girlfriend was watching it with me. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, I just want to turn this shit off. And she was like, no, you need to watch the whole thing. And so I watched the whole thing, and it was awful. And I made my way over to your house, and yeah, we put on Gods of Egypt, and we started watching it, and we turned it off after 40 minutes maybe?
We got about an hour into it. Also, my roommate Dakota, our mutual friend, was in the room with us, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to put this a little bit on you. You and Dakota would not shut up. So it was all going left, but I didn't want to be Mr. School teacher, quiet in the back. We must watch this. I was like, whatever. If we just end up talking about nothing when this movie's over, I don't really give a fuck.
Well, we were talking about the movie, and then we were trying to talk about other things. Actually, we ended up, we watched a really shitty quality version at first. Was it on Tubi?
Yeah, no, it was on the Redbox app because it said it was free with ads on the Redbox app, but it was streaming at 240p on my 55-inch new TV, and it just looked like dog shit. So we started it. You know what? I still own Gods of Egypt now
because we had to buy it.
And also, drinking was involved, which fueled this whole thing.
Me and Coda both sent you $2 to buy a $4.
So we were like, we cannot watch this in this terrible quality. I guess we'll just fucking buy it. So I go on Vudu. They send me money to buy it. We buy it. We start it again in crispy HD. It looks better, but the movie still sucks. And guess what? We took a shot before we were going to start, and then we were like, we bought it again. You know what? Another shot.
Okay, to be fair, the alcohol that we were drinking was delicious. It was very fruity and flavorful and
organic strawberry lemonade vodka.
Yeah.
And that shit tasted like Capri Sun. And it was 50 proof.
Just throwing them back. And so we're watching Gods of Egypt. We're like, this shit sucks. We're done. And we turn it off and we start watching what? We're like Star Wars.
Yeah. What's a movie that we can watch that we know by heart? So even if we don't pay attention, we can just talk about it afterwards. So we start Attack of the Clones. First, we ruminate on which Star Wars is the worst and which one would be the most fun to make fun of. And we land on Attack of the Clones. We start it. We get about 40 minutes into that. We were watching Anakin Skywalker jump out of a speeder and fall through a Windows wallpaper. I mean Coruscant. And we were like, fuck it. We just want to party. And we turned the lights on and we turned some music on and we just stood up and started drinking. And we called our friends and our significant others, and we're like, guess what? We're having a party.
We're getting lit. And then I go into the bathroom and I start throwing up. Man, mind you, this is 7-8 shots in at this point.
And we're only 7 p.m. because we got together at 4 or 5.
And so I get sick, and then my girlfriend is on the way over because she's gonna party with us, and then I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go home. Michael said I didn't even say bye, and I just walked out.
No, I was in the kitchen. I just see him stand up from the couch and walk out the front door, and I'm like, uh-oh.
This is how I knew I effed up, because my motor skills and like my motor functions, everything was just starting to fall apart. I couldn't form complete sentences, and it was a train wreck. So I decided to just remove myself from the equation.
So lemonade vodka, recommend, but also don't recommend.
Take it in small doses. Don't throw them back, even though it's delicious.
Even though it's delicious and it tastes so good, and it feels like you're hardly drinking at all.
But you are. You really are.
Oh man. So that happened, and you know what? That has happened to RLM too, but they made it about 200 episodes before they got too drunk to complete an episode.
And they would film themselves doing it. And I felt like it would have been good content to film, but
that's a lot of
we
technology.
haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
So someday maybe we'll do a live like videotaping. Anyways, so what had happened is we tried to watch 2 different movies and we ended up not watching any movies at all, and we don't really have a movie to talk about. So instead, in place, me and Kaylin have just watched some stuff on our own time that we've decided to bring to the table to discuss.
Yeah, we've both been sick, had some downtime, so we had some time to watch a few things. And what do you got?
All right, so I have 2 movies, and then we're going to talk about Andor, because I feel like we trashed a Star Wars product as like our inaugural thing, and I feel like I got to give them some props now because there's a good Star Wars show that was made and happened. The 2 movies are joined together by a theme, and that theme is titles that are entirely way too long. So should I do the older movie or the newer movie first? What do you think?
Start with the old.
Okay, so the older movie is called The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford.
Okay, yeah.
Have you ever heard of this movie?
Yes.
So it's a movie starring Brad Pitt. And part of the reason I picked this, so I'd seen, the director's name is Andrew Dominik, and I'd seen Andrew Dominik's previous movie. Or I'd previously seen actually his next movie, the movie that followed this, called Killing Them Softly, which also stars Brad Pitt and has Tony Soprano in it.
Yes.
And we have both seen that. I think I liked it more than you liked it. And it's kind of just like a boots on the ground, kind of like a gangster mob story, but it's really not. It's about like the men that are too small to even like make a mob movie about, kind of.
Yeah. I remember that movie being very dour, and that's why it never really stuck with me. Who's the director for this again?
So the director is Andrew Dominik. He did Killing Them Softly, and he also did this movie prior to that called The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. I will not be saying the entire title anymore. It stars Brad Pitt, and the part of the reason it also appealed to me, besides me liking his first movie, is this cast is ridiculous. Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck, Sam Rockwell, Jeremy Renner. Zoe Deschanel shows up at the end for like 20 minutes and has like a bit part. It's a big Western epic, 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Yeah, and you're not one for long movies either,
no.
So it's surprising.
And I will say, this isn't like my heartiest recommendation. I watched it and I thought it was interesting, and I mostly just wanted to attach these 2 movies by the theme of extra long titles. But mostly, this movie is a really good Brad Pitt performance. We have like Southern drawl Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Which is like one of, we got him in that. We got him in Inglourious Bastards. Can you think of any other?
Where he's got a southern
accent.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he kind of has a southern thing. It's not real like a drawl, but it's like,
yeah,
it's
like it's a lot of good performances wrapped in a movie that's entirely too fucking long and is a little weird in the way it's edited. So Roger Deakins does the cinematography for this movie. Roger Deakins, very accomplished, has done probably one of the most accomplished cinematographers in the history of film. He did this movie, and he said there is a train robbery scene, which is very like moodily lit. It's like middle of the night, pitch black. They have all this lumber pitched on the top of to like block the train, pitched on the tracks. And like as the train comes up, you see all the steam from the steam engine like shoot out to the sides, but you got the big beam of light because it's like that classic old like 1800s train with like the big lantern in front, like the big light in front. It is very moodily lit, and Roger Deakins has said it was one of his like greatest cinema cinema, whatever. One of his best feats of his career. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And also, Brad Pitt has said this was his favorite part. This was an interview in 2013, so he's done more parts since then. But up to that point, this was his favorite part, and it was also his biggest box office failure. This movie made $4 million.
That's crazy. I still think Brad Pitt's best performance is Fight Club, and I watched that recently. That movie is brilliant. We definitely need to do an episode on Fight Club. Brad Pitt is pretty. I don't think he's underrated. He was a lot bigger back in the early 2000s, but as an actor, I think he's always acceptable. You know what I mean? In his roles,
and he's made a lot of interesting choices. He didn't become, because there's a while where he was also world's sexiest man, very much like a heartthrob type of guy, but he never did the roles for that type of guy. Like you said, he did Fight Club, he did Snatch, he's done all kinds of
really weird characters that he played. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he's a failed stuntman or whatever, and he's just the most depressing guy. He lives in a trailer, he chain smokes, that kind of thing. Just really interesting characters, and I think usually he's the standout in the films that he's in. He's always the one that usually is the most interesting.
Yeah, so. He's great in Burn After Reading. He's great in all kinds of movies. In this movie, again, a great performance. Sam Rockwell, he plays Robert Ford's brother. Sam Rockwell's one of my favorite actors. He does a great performance. Casey Affleck, who is canceled, but in this movie he is.
Wait, what did he do?
Casey Affleck is allegedly just violence towards women.
Okay, and Ben Affleck too, didn't he do?
Allegedly, look, I don't know.
The Affleck man, we need to keep him locked up. I don't know.
But he actually does he's maybe the standout in this movie because it's in the title. The plot is not about unveiling what's going to happen to these characters. The title gives you the ending of the movie. But Casey Affleck plays Robert Ford as this very everybody pounds on him. He gets, ridiculed all the time. He's kind of a bookish, chin down type of guy. And the way he slowly turns is really brilliantly played. But otherwise, it's a movie that's entirely too long. Sometimes it turns into a documentary. There's all this narration, which feels like just a really lazy editing decision or something. I guess this used to be a 4-hour movie.
Jesus.
So it's been hacked down. So maybe that's to
Is it in the style of Scorsese narration kind of thing, or is it?
No, it turns into a Ken Burns documentary. And it just shows a short video or a still image, and it sounds like Ken Burns. I don't even know if it is, but you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Where it's and then Robert Ford moved north to Manitowoc, Quebec, and he lived with this person and that person.
Well, I'm thinking if it's a Western, then they're trying to do the whole Western novel kind of thing where it's.
No, it very much sometimes just cuts and it feels like a Ken Burns documentary. And it's weird, and I don't particularly like it. And ultimately, the movie's way too long. It is interesting. It is well made. Brad Pitt's performance is really good. It's got a good cast. Overall, I'd say light recommend, but it's still too long. It could have been a shorter movie.
Okay. I actually have another star-studded one as well. Pinocchio, not to be confused with the Disney remake. But the one that was directed by Guillermo, I always fuck up his name, Guillermo del Toro, whatever his fucking name is.
You can just say Guillermo.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the L's are silent. Okay, well, fuck it. That guy.
Del Toro.
Del Toro's Pinocchio, shot in gorgeous claymation style. Star-studded cast. So Ewan McGregor, Finn Wolfhard, Ron Perlman, Christoph Waltz, one of my favorite actors, David Bradley, Tilda Swinton, Cate Blanchett. It was a great film. It's not the conventional Pinocchio story that everybody knows from Disney. It's a lot darker. Del Toro is known for those weird, really dark, kind of almost gothic stories.
He's known a lot for his set design and his prop design and his monster design and sort of the aesthetic of his movies. Yeah. He's previously done Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, stuff like that.
He kind of reminds me of Tim Burton, the style of his films. It's a really good movie though. It's kind of an allegory on the dangers of nationalism, and it takes a really dark turn where like Pinocchio is sent to train to go to fight in the military, the German military, and during World War One, and it's some really dark shit. It's also about relationships between fathers and sons. There's a character in this where Pinocchio kind of befriends this other little boy in the town, and his father is like a commander in the military, and his father is really hard on him, and he's pushing him to be the manliest man and to go fight for his country, this and that. And Pinocchio's like, well, why can't you just love him? You know, that kind of thing. So it's a really cute story. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I strongly recommend Pinocchio by Del Toro.
Would you say it is overall a downer? Like I've wanted to watch it, but I also have been like, is this like really going to be so dreary that it's going to ruin my mood?
It's really not. It's got some heavier themes, but I wouldn't say that the heavy themes overshadow everything. There's a lot of lightheartedness to it. There's music and it's very colorful, and the animation is a little creepy in some parts, but it's no worse than like Nightmare Before Christmas or that kind of thing. I mean, you kind of have to expect that from like most claymation films, that everything kind of looks what's the term for that? Like the uncanny valley effect, where everything just seems a little off. Yeah, well, that too. And Ewan McGregor plays Jiminy Cricket, and he's great. And yeah, it's a fun time. It's on Netflix. If you got some time, you should just check it out.
Nice. You know what? I may be calling an audible in the middle of this. I was going to talk about a different movie, which is called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It stars Nicolas Cage. Wait, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk more about Pinocchio?
No, I'm good on Pinocchio. I say go watch it for yourself. If you love claymation, you'll love this movie. So
would you recommend, hey, if you like Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach,
yes,
that type of deal?
It's very much that style of film. It's like it's a dark adventure kids movie.
Will it scare my very teeny tiny children?
Probably. I wouldn't. No. I mean, if your kid's a bitch, then yeah.
Okay. Just know if your child's a bitch. I was going to talk about The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. It's a fun enough like spy buddy movie. The premise being that Nick Cage is playing Nick Cage, and if you're a big Nick Cage fan, check it out. But I want to talk about a movie that's new to streaming that you made me think of talking about fathers, I guess. The Banshees of Inisherin, the new movie starring Colin Farrell that just came to HBO Max.
Director of Seven Psychopaths and
In Bruges and Three Billboards Outside of Hibbing, Missouri. The director, Martin McDonagh. I like basically all his other movies. Seven Psychopaths, In Bruges, Three Billboards Outside of Hibbing, Missouri.
You're very adamant about Seven Psychopaths.
I like Seven Psychopaths a lot. I used to call it my favorite movie. I have backed off that. I think In Bruges might be a better movie. I need to see Three Billboards now to be a completionist. But Banshees of Inisherin is on HBO Max right now. It's starring Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, who are the stars of In Bruges. It's sort of their return. And it's about, if you've watched the trailer, it's about exactly what the trailer says. And it's two best friends. Well, they used to be good friends at least. Live on this tiny Irish island. And then one day one of them wakes up and he's like, well, I guess I just don't like you no more. And Colin Farrell doesn't understand. He's like, what? Well, weren't we just friends yesterday? And then it's about that situation slowly unraveling. Eventually comes up and he's like, if you come to talk to me anymore, I'll be taking a finger off me hand.
Okay.
And that's the ante now. And it's just two friends that are no longer friends. And it's really, there's some interesting things happening, like off in the distance, there's the Irish Civil War happening. Meanwhile, there's kind of a civil war happening between these two close friends.
Yeah,
so
it's like
kind
brother against brother kind of thing.
it's kind of a brother against brother thing. There's things about like the vanity of being an artist or like needing an audience. Brendan Gleeson is like a musical composer, and he's like, I've wasted too much time talking to you about your bullshit, and I haven't made any art that lasts. People remember Beethoven, they remember Mozart, they remember whatever. They won't remember you talking to me about your donkey shitting the other day. Like, and
there's some interesting stuff, you know.
And it sounds really heavy, but the thing is, it's actually really funny for most of it.
Is it a dark? Because most of his movies are dark comedies.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a dark comedy. As the ante sort of escalates towards the end of the movie, it gets a bit more dour and depressed. But for I'd say 80% of it, it's really funny. Colin Farrell's one of my favorite actors. He's hilarious in this. Barry Keoghan's like a guest star in this. So funny. Probably steals the movie. Everybody's just great in it. I will say, previous to this, although I haven't seen Three Billboards, it might be better in that. One of the things that I've started to not like about Martin McDonagh is like his treatment of female characters. Seven Psychopaths, female are just props to look at, to be like like one of the main characters is constantly calling the other character's wife. He's like, Marty, your wife's a cunt. And like they're there to get murdered. They're just props. They don't really have any ambition. And I think he fixed that issue in here with Colin Farrell's sister is a really important character in the movie, and she's really a great standout character. She's not really the funniest character in the movie, but she's a standout. Great movie. It's on HBO Max. You can watch it right now. I will just say it's funnier than you may expect, but it's gonna get weird for like if you're not used to this type of movie. It's gonna get weird and it's gonna get grim towards the end, but it's also like 90% a funny time.
Okay. Yeah, his I know you always wanted me to get into his movies, or you would recommend them to me, and I've watched Seven Psychopaths and I've watched In Bruges. None of them really did it for me because I mean In Bruges was just fucking dour, and I didn't really have a fun time with that. But I do see the artistry that's involved in this director's filmmaking and great performances. Yeah, Colin Farrell he's a very underrated actor. He was great in the Batman, his most recent.
He's had a hell of a year.
Movie. Yeah. I want to talk about. Are you done with the? Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about a couple of TV shows that I've been checking out. So the first one, this might come as a surprise to you. It's called Tulsa King, and it stars Sylvester Stallone. Yeah,
I've seen the commercials.
Okay, so this show, it's nothing incredible, but it's kind of a fun time. So the premise is that an old mob boss, or he was like a capo in some mafia family in New York. He did a stretch of time, like 25 years in prison, and he comes out to this basically a new world to him where there's all this technology, and he comes home to the mafia. The state of his gang just totally different. Like his old capo, his old boss is old and decrepit now, and his son, the boss's son, is like kind of taking over most of the work in the family. And so there's a little bit of controversy between those two characters, and they end up sending Sylvester Stallone out to Tulsa. And so he's in this shitty backwater town in Tulsa, and he's like, how do I got to start my shit back up. I got to get my name back on the top kind of thing. But it's also like a fish out of water scenario where he's like, he's walking around. He doesn't know how to use a fucking cell phone. He doesn't know how to get a credit card. He's like, what's wrong with cash? You know? And so,
and nobody can understand him because he's Sylvester Stallone.
Well, I was going to get into that too. His performance is not terrible. It's definitely some of the best stuff he's done recently, but he just sounds like he's got a mouthful of peanut butter. Like it's hard to understand him sometimes. But
there's in the commercial, there's some part where like he says a line. He's like, "Might be the king of Tulsa or something," and then it cuts to black, and Stallone has another line, and I don't know what the fuck he's saying because I can't read his lips.
Yeah,
he's like,
his face is being held together by staples and some fucking tinfoil. I don't know. But
I don't know that steroids ate my brain. No, I shouldn't do that because he had like an actual brain damage
Yeah.
injury. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Sil.
no,
I'm sorry, Stallone. I respect
He's
you.
still fucking massive though.
He's
And
big.
He's 75 years old.
And while I make fun of Stallone's voice, he is actually he can be a good actor.
Yeah, I mean he's not terrible in this either. It's actually funny. Like he basically just his first day in Tulsa, he takes over like a weed dispensary, and it's just a bunch of hipsters working in there, and they're like, he's like comes in, he's like, yeah, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna give me a cut every week, and then the hipsters are just like, all right, man, like everybody's just high as fuck in there, and he just takes over this business, and so he goes on little adventures. It's interesting because his driver, he just hires this Uber driver basically to drive him around. It's this black guy. I forget the name of the actor, but he's great too. And so there's that father-son dynamic between Sylvester Stallone and the black guy. And the black guy's like, man, I want my name out there. I want to be like you, this and that. And then at home, his real father is like, I raised you different. I want you to be different and stuff. So there's kind of a clash between Sylvester Stallone's character and then the black guy's father. So that's good. And then they're kind of clashing against local gangs, and it's a fun time. And it's not played completely straight, and that's why I like it, because there's a lot of comedic elements, and most of the jokes actually land, which I was super surprised by.
That's more interesting to me than what the commercial seems to be selling like a very straightforward, like I'm the mafioso Donna Tossa
Right.
type of deal, and what you're saying sounds more interesting than that.
And I might be crucified for this, and it's no way as good, but it kind of reminds me of The Sopranos a little bit, just because there's a lot of comedic elements, but also it's not afraid to get serious, and it's not afraid to tackle heavier subjects like race and just different subjects, and it's interesting and it's fun, and I recommend it. I think it's on Apple TV.
No,
Apple
I
TV
think
Plus?
I think it's like AMC Plus or like Paramount Plus. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Paramount Plus, that's what it is.
Paramount Plus?
So yeah, it's on Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is like $5 a month. Just get the free trial and check out that show. It's pretty interesting. It's still going on, so I have some catching up to do. Also, I don't know if you want to throw anything in there, but I got one more TV show. Gangs of London, is directed by Gareth Evans, who is the director of the Raid movies, which is Indonesian action films, regarded as some of the greatest action films ever made. Gareth Evans directs Gangs of London. Also a star-studded cast, a lot of British actors. It's got Joe Cole, and he's most famously known for Peaky Blinders. And then Sope, I'm going to butcher this, Soap Dirisu. Black guy, he's British. He's great. He's in a few things. And then Michelle Fairley, she's most well known for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, this guy is in His House, the Netflix movie, I think.
Yeah, the horror film.
Yeah.
Which is a good film until the ending where they show the demon coming out of the floor.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the demon. It's a pretty good movie, but yeah, the demon was in that. It was whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, Gangs of London is awesome. It's on its second season right now, and it just ended, and you can watch it on AMC Plus. It's a great show. It's very depressing.
Excellent.
But I mean, there's nobody smiles at all. But it's got amazing action sequences. Just so much gore and ridiculous shit happening. I think I showed you a clip of them having a shootout in some house, and that shit was insane. So I recommend this to anybody who just loves action. Gangs of London is awesome. Highly recommend. Also watch the Raid movies because those are awesome as well.
I'm calling an audible again. I'm inserting one more thing before I talk about Andor. Because, Kalen, have you seen Bullet Train yet?
No, but you've been telling me to watch
I'm
that.
telling you, as somebody that likes Tarantino and likes John Wick, you will like this movie. And likes anime, you will like this movie. Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt, directed by the director of Deadpool 2, David Leitch. Also, I don't know what it means. It says he was the uncredited director of the original John Wick. I don't know if that means he's like second unit or whatever.
That's most likely what it is, yeah.
Anyways, Bullet Train now on Netflix. It's such a freaking crowd pleaser. But it's funny because Brad Pitt's not even the standout. The standout is Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry as Lemon and Tangerine. It's basically a bunch of assassins are stuck on a train. Some of them are after a briefcase. Other ones are after this mob boss that is, awaiting in a different town. And they're all put there together. And Lemon and Tangerine are so funny. Lemon is he's a massive fan of Thomas the Train. And he says, so they're bringing back, Lemon and Tangerine were hired to bring the White Death, this big mob boss, his son back to him, which got kidnapped by a rival gang. They have him on the train. And he starts telling his son, he's like, see, I know how to read people. I learned everything I know about people from Thomas the Train. And he's like, you're a Percy, because you're a bit sweet and you're not all there. And he's like, but the worst thing you could be is a diesel. Fuck me. Never be a diesel. And then Lemon comes across Brad Pitt's character and he's like, I think I found my diesel. And he's like, what? Brad Pitt's like, what? A diesel? Diesel, no, not me. He's like, you're the diesel. You're the one that's been mucking everything up. He's like, I'm trying to get diesels out of my life.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody use Thomas the Train analogies for things. That's pretty great.
So from now on, if you ever hear me be like, this guy's a diesel, I'm not fucking with his energy. It's so funny. All the characters are so colorful. The action is well done. The plotting is a little all over the place. Reality gets thrown out of the window kind of in the third act, but it just has so much fun with itself that it's hard for me. Like, you might not think it's apex cinema, but it's hard for me to think of hardly anyone that will walk away not having a good time.
Okay. Because I know this movie didn't get reviewed well, and I think that's what initially turned me off from it.
It has like middling reviews, and I think it's mostly like some people, I would say the biggest critic or criticism, which I think most critics would have because they have maybe a bigger film, they've seen more films than the average person, is it is kind of a Tarantino ripoff in the fact that it's all these like mouthy assassins all in one place, right. and it has a lot of fun with the violence, but it does enough of its own thing, has enough of its own fun characters, and its spin is like, if Tarantino does like blaxploitation or like 80s like what do they call it, like 80s B movie cinema is kind of where he draws all his stuff. This was heavily drawn from like anime. Like the fact that it's on a bullet train in Japan is like really huge to the aesthetic. It has lots of fun lighting and fun characters. It's great.
Okay, I think you've kind of sold me. I'll probably end up I might check this out when I get home.
It has a big watch it and let me know if you think it's anime inspired, because I think it's pretty anime inspired too.
Okay. It's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Right now. And then the final thing I want to talk about is Andor, the Disney Plus Star Wars series. That is actually good. This series had everything going against it. It is a offshoot series of the movie Rogue One, which is a boring movie, like a well-made but boring movie about boring people doing a mission that we already know how it's going to end.
I still stand on that. It's the best looking Star Wars thing that we've ever gotten.
Yes.
I don't understand the hate for that movie. I thought it was very well done. I don't think any of the characters were particularly interesting, but I thought it was fine for what it was.
I'd say most people would agree it's probably the second best Star Wars movie that's been put out by Disney.
Sure. What's the first?
I would say Force Awakens. Some people would say The Last Jedi. We hate The Last Jedi, but like, it's one of those.
Okay.
I don't think it's this one. At least Force Awakens had characters that I liked.
Yeah, Force Awakens was fun. I think it tried too hard to be Marvel.
Yeah.
But anyways, this
is neither here nor there. Andor is about Cassian Andor, a character from that movie. It's a prequel, so we also know how Cassian Andor's life is going to end.
He gets blowed up.
But So I when they announced the show, I was like, this is the worst idea ever. This is all the worst impulses of Disney. It's a character taken to expand the universe, but actually doesn't because it's a character that we already know and we know how their life will end. It's so great. It's written by Tony Gilroy, writer of the Bourne movies, director of the Bourne Legacy, and of Michael Clayton, like a law procedural starring George Clooney. This is a movie that actually understands, a show that actually understands the great things about Star Wars, and that Star Wars can be many different things. I think Rogue One thought it was going to be Star Wars doing different things, and it maybe did it to some extent, maybe the most of any Star Wars movie put out by Disney.
Well, their whole thing was like, we're going to make a war film.
This is like a boots on the ground. This feels like what Rogue One wanted to be.
Okay.
Where it's like really boots on the ground. You really get a sense of the oppressiveness of the Empire. You feel the walls closing around all these characters. And you've never really got that sense from, anything.
Since Empire Strikes Back.
Maybe. Yeah, since like Empire Strikes Back. And even then it wasn't like boots on the ground. It wasn't like for the everyday person. Like it was the Empire closing around the rebellion or around Luke Skywalker, around like heavily powered characters or like big organizations. This is like random citizens getting their lives fucked. Like basically in the middle of this series, Andor, Cassian, he's had a whole situation where he's escaped from, and then he ends up getting locked up just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then there's a whole like prison section with Andy Serkis who shows up and is great in it. And once you get into the prison section, which is about episode 6, like first 3 episodes are like the Andor show. It's really about Cassian. That's a little mid. The second 3 is about he joins up with some rebels to attack a base to steal, like they're literally there to steal money, which is again like another like realism, like people are funding the rebellion. Right. They need to do these things and that's like the minutia that no Star Wars has ever really wanted to get bogged down in, but it's like interesting when you spin it out in the right. smaller ways.
I find it interesting that they got politics right in this as the complete opposite, which was the prequels that try to do politics and it was just fucking boring. I think this is the way you introduce politics into Star Wars.
Right. Like the final kind of our big finale is a lady giving a speech to rouse a rebellion in a town and flip the bird to the Empire. Like that's our rising final beat. It's so smartly written. It's written by someone who clearly doesn't particularly, well, he's claimed to not be a Star Wars fan. I don't know if I buy that unless he has like really close confidants that help move some of the Star Wars things that they bring back. Like Mon Mothma is a returning character who's just a side political character.
Mon Mothma's back.
Mon Mothma's back.
Is Basil Oregano in this?
No. Basil Oregano, played by Jimmy Smits. No, he was already in Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah, he was.
They didn't need to bring him back, but it's like it does politics right. It does character motivations right. It does building the world right. And it comes to a satisfying conclusion, and it just is fucking good. And I'm so shocked.
It's I haven't watched the whole thing yet. Getting there. But yeah, from what I've seen, it's really interesting, and it's shot really nice as well. Actually, what stood out to me was it was like the first episode. It looked like Blade Runner for a minute.
And it goes to that bar.
Yeah, it was like neon lights, and it was really dystopian looking, and it was super cool. And I was like, this is what the prequels wanted to look like. This is what a lot of Star Wars has wanted to look like, but they got it right. It was pretty interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely continue watching. Yeah, it's amazing that something related to Star Wars is some of the best television that we've gotten in a while.
Yes. Oh, Stellan Skarsgård is in this movie, and he gives a speech. It's so fucking rousing in like episode 7 or 8. Oh my god. And he's just talking about like this is a show that's about like the cost of rebellion, and Saw Gerrera comes back. We get Forrest Whitaker talking like this.
With his
even more
fucked up eye.
Yes, but it's like actually good. Like that's the thing where I'm talking about where we love to bring Star Wars characters back. Oh, that's that thing I know, but they bring him back and I'm like, oh, what is he going to say? Yeah. Like, this is a good situation to put him in. Like, they found smart ways to bring characters back. That's not just like, look at this
Yeah,
person.
it's not just shoehorning
Look,
characters.
Baby Yoda's leaving with Luke Skywalker. Look,
with CGI Luke Skywalker.
aren't you emotional? Oh wait, we gotta get him back for season 3. He's at the end of Book of Boba Fett.
I will say though that the scene in Mandalorian when Luke comes in, that was a pretty epic scene, and that was one of the scenes where like these motherfuckers got me. They got me.
They
Like,
did. They got me. I don't know. They got me until they shipped it. I don't
until
know.
he took his hood off and showed his face. I was like, oh, you fuckers.
Yeah. Can we just do this tastefully? Just shoot him from the back and use Mark Hamill's voice?
Right. Or use an actor that looks like him. I don't know, man.
Yeah, or yeah, just recast.
You know who looks like Mark Hamill that they were like talks of like making a series with this actor, the guy who plays the Winter Soldier in Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
I forget his name, but he looks just like a young Mark Hamill. I was like, why don't you just fucking use him? I don't know. There's ways to do that kind of stuff. That's tasteful, you know? Yeah, I'm gonna have to continue watching because the premise interests me. So, and I kind of gave up on Star Wars, but I'm like, you know, if I hear that it's good, I'm willing to check it out. Kind of
Right.
thing.
There was like 0% chance I was checking this out on my own, but then I saw all kinds of people being like, this is the best Star Wars thing since we can remember.
But they also said that about Obi-Wan too, so it's like, who can you trust? Like,
yeah, that was also part of it. At least half of people really liked Obi-Wan, and that was one of the worst shows I've ever seen in my life.
that was such. I don't want to bring this up again, but I can't help but to talk about how bizarre that time was, where people were literally like, "This is the greatest shit I've ever seen in my life," and I was like, "Are you actually watching it? Like, come on, man! This shit." I felt like I was dreaming when I was watching that shit. It did not feel real. I was like, I'm gonna wake up and the Kenobi show is gonna premiere today.
All they needed to do was have him take off his hood a million times and go, "Why, hello there," and they just win the internet.
Holy shit!
It's so terrible. Star Wars fans are awful. I don't associate with them.
Yeah. Oh, I also this is my last one.
Let's just list shit off.
Okay, I also watched Black Adam the other day because it's on HBO Max, and I was like, "Fuck
Why
it."
would you do that?
I don't know. It was a Friday night, and I had some wine. I was like, you know, I'm chilling tonight. Let me throw on Black Adam, and that shit was god awful. The Rock was terrible in Black Adam, and I'm like, this is supposedly a passion project of his, where he's been working on this since like 2013 or trying to get this greenlit forever. And I was like, you could at least put a little emotion into your passion project. But then I was like, it also felt like he was just kind of stroking his dick the entire movie. Where it's like, look at me, look at my body, look at my bald head. Like, yeah, DC films are just fucking awful, man.
Well,
Except the Suicide Squad was good.
the Suicide Squad was good. The Batman was good.
But anything that's not directly tied into the overall like shared universe thing, I don't think the Suicide Squad was.
Well, it sounds like
shared.
they're restarting it, so it doesn't matter now.
Well, they need to restart it again because Black Adam was fucking dog shit. And then they had a cameo of
Henry Cavill?
Henry Cavill Superman, and that kind of I was like, you know, brought back some feels.
I know what that is.
Yeah, I was like, these motherfuckers got me again. They got me.
All you had to show was that S on
But
your
then
chest.
apparently last week, Henry Cavill, they're taking him off of everything for whatever reason. They're like, we're not bringing Henry Cavill back. And so a lot of people are pissed off about that because they got excited seeing him cameo in Black Adam and they want to see The Rock go against Henry Cavill. I would watch that too, actually. It sounds a lot more interesting than the actual movie that came out. The best character in that movie was Hawkman. He was super badass. And then he didn't really do much. And then Dr. Fate's character died.
Hawkman sounds like a knockoff character that's in The Boys.
Yeah, it
Just
does,
the name.
actually. Yeah.
It's like, dun, 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 dun. Look, it's Hawkman.
It's funny, though, because Marvel characters are knockoff characters of DC characters.
Well, they all are just, it's just been a twisted web of stealing ideas.
But Marvel is more popular, and DC characters suck and are boring. So yeah, don't watch Black Adam. That shit is dog shit. The CGI is terrible. They have probably one of the worst superhero villains I've ever seen in my life. Even worse than Just Ice League's, what was that, Steppenwolf or whatever?
Yeah, Steppenwolf.
Jesus
They gave
Christ.
Steppenwolf some character in the Justice League recut.
In the
Snyder cut.
The Snyder cut. Yeah, this character though, he was like some demon Shazam character or whatever. Just the most boring video game looking character I've ever seen in my life. It was terrible. Yeah, Black Adam sucks. Don't watch it.
While we're talking about disappointing superhero movies, I watched Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And let me tell you, that movie lasts for fucking ever.
Was it sad? Were you sad watching Black
Panther? Here's the thing. At the beginning, T'Challa dies. I feel like that's not really a spoiler because guess what? He's not going to be in this movie.
I was going to say, how did they do that?
It basically smash cuts into Neytiri in her like science lab, and she's like trying to whip up a cure, and T'Challa's dying off screen, and she doesn't get a cure.
What is he dying from?
They don't really say. Like, it's basically he dies of cancer, but they don't outright say cancer because I think they think that's a bridge too far because
he really died from
he really died from cancer. What to say about this movie? I think the failure. I know the movie failed to move me emotionally because the time I got most emotional was not during any of the scenes in the movie. It's when, you know how after the intro they always have like the Marvel intro where it's just all the pictures of like
the panels,
all the panels and the Marvel music's playing, except it was dead silent and it was just pictures of
Chadwick Boseman.
Yes. And that made me cry.
Really?
And none of the rest of the movie made me feel damn near anything. Even though it really wants me to. It's taking some interesting ideas. It's kind of basically the villain, the underwater guy. They're like, you know, South American Aztec or whatever that like ventured off into the sea at some point because they were being colonized. So and then they start attacking because they're afraid that the world's gonna discover them and they'll be colonized again.
Right. This is Marvel's Aquaman, right? The Namor character.
Namor character. Yeah. But like that's smart, I think, kind of to do a sequel because that was kind of. But it's also like we're doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
But instead we're doing it in underwater Aztecs and not like Michael B. Jordan showing up and being like, let's take this for our own. Like, fuck all the colonizers. Like, the world doesn't need to know.
Yeah.
It does some smart things. Mostly it just is bloated with Marvel action, and it takes way too long. It just is real like stop-starty. Like, it takes way too long to unveil the real plot, and then it like there's a moment where Namor attacks, you know, the Crown City of Wakanda, fucks a bunch of shit up, and then he says, "You have 24 hours to come to my terms." And I was like, fuck, this isn't the end of the movie?
There's still 24 more hours.
I was like, oh no, there's going to be another third act, 30-minute action sequence. Fucking A. And that was kind of it. Like, the plot is not so complicated that it needed to take this long to unfold. We could have tightened it up. It seemed bloated with all these extra characters that they're kind of bringing in and trying to reassemble because they need to because Chadwick Boseman's gone. Right.
Do you like how they're all these male characters are dying and the mantles are being passed over to female characters?
They brought
Ironheart.
You know who's in here? Yeah, Ironheart. She's terrible. Her acting is terrible, and she definitely feels like the stapled on, like, come catch me in the Disney Plus series. Like, the only reason she has screen time is to set up her Disney Plus
series. That's how I felt about the Hispanic character from Doctor Strange. America Chavez or whatever.
And they do the same thing. It's the same plot where it's like, bad guy wants to kidnap the character for our upcoming Disney Plus series. Bad guy wants to kidnap plucky teen plot. So our heroes have to protect her. We did this already.
Yeah.
And honestly, Multiverse of Madness, I think, is more interesting than this was. At least it has some fun with like Sam Raimi stuff. This one, it's kind of like, I don't like hardly any of these people. Put Winston Duke back on screen. Winston Duke is fun when he's on screen. Everybody else, I don't like. Neytiri being the center of the Black Panther thing from now on. Don't like it.
Well, me and you were in the minority that we didn't really think the first movie was that great. As far as a filmmaking perspective, I think the overall message and what it did for the industry, and I mean, I think that's very empowering, and I think it's awesome. But the movie itself was not that great.
Yeah.
The CGI was god awful.
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan was great. Other than that, there wasn't much to really go off of. Obviously, the whole, just the meaning of the movie itself is something that's great. And so it's kind of solidified itself in Film Hall of Fame kind of thing. That's awesome. Yeah, so I wasn't necessarily excited for this, and that's why I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably wait. Is it on Disney Plus?
No, not yet. I'm sure it will be, yeah. I'd say catch it on Disney Plus unless you're really aching for it.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
Oh, man, Marvel is just, I don't know. I'm just not interested anymore. I saw maybe an hour of Thor, Love and Thunder, and it was fucking terrible.
I've seen more of them, but really my interest in, like, I wasn't even the most engaged before, but now after Endgame, it was really just like, I'm checking out.
Yeah, I like No Way Home. No Way Home was fun. I mean, obviously it was like fan service.
I like
the movie, but I mean,
WandaVision a lot.
WandaVision was good.
And I think that helped me like Multiverse of Madness a good amount. But even that, I'm like, if that's your shining beacon of this whole run, it's not great.
But it's just like Marvel is just, they just shit out content, and it has no soul to it. And that's why I can't keep getting into this shit, is just because like it's the same shit. Like you were saying, it's the same stories over and over. And then it's like what they do is they have a panel where they're like, they list off the next 15 movies that they have over the next 4 years. It's like, bro, it's like, come on, man. Can you not see the sleaze in this?
I'm not running on this treadmill any longer. Like, I know that Ironheart's only in here for the Ironheart series.
Right.
Probably Jessica Jones, what's her name? Captain America. What the fuck was Multiverse of Man? It doesn't matter.
The America Chavez or
America
whatever.
Chavez, yeah.
I don't even think she's getting a show because she was terrible too.
I think they're doing like a Young Avengers thing down
God.
the road.
Stop.
Anyways, that's the point. The point is there's always, when there's endlessly going to be a new thing and endless continuity and endless recycling and swapping, I realize that's kind of what comic books are, but like at some point it's like, I'm checking out. I'm done. Like I've cashed out on my interest in this.
Right.
I cannot dedicate this attention in perpetuity.
But at least with comics, there's somewhat of a mystery behind the next story where it's like, they don't show a trailer for the comic book. You know what I mean? I think they probably do now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But now it's like they show the entire movie in a trailer. You already know it. That's what they did with this Black Panther thing, because there's all these TV spots. That's what I kept seeing, TV spots. They show the entire fucking movie. It's like, what mystery is there in this? Like, what kind of stakes are there for these characters? It's boring, man. That's what it is. And yeah, I'm kind of checked out from Marvel, and I don't care about the Secret War shit. I don't care about the new big bad, the new Thanos or whatever. I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna rewatch Infinity War, and then I'll be good.
I don't even want to watch the old stuff. Now that I've seen how it's wrapped up, like I don't think I care about any of those. I'm just kind of like I just canceled my Disney Plus and only had it because a student watched a lot of Disney Plus. Okay. And now I looked at it and I was like, damn, there's nothing I want to watch on here.
You know what we've been rewatching? Like some of the older Disney animated stuff. It's great stuff, man. Like The Lion King. Awesome.
I just watched The Princess Bride on.
Princess Bride is also a great film. Hercules is awesome. I love Hercules. The music, the animation. James Woods is in it. He's great. Yeah, man. I don't know. Disney sucks, except for the old animated stuff. Yeah. Marvel sucks. Everything sucks.
The world sucks.
Bring out the raspberry vodka. Let me drown my sorrows one more time, please.
Time to drink. So, moral of the story is movies are driving us to drink.
This is what this podcast does to us. It just buries us. No Good November was a fail.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll ever do that again.
I think I've come to the conclusion that we've got to be like a little bit more seat of our pants.
Yeah.
We're day-to-day boys. We're not planning boys. We just show up and we do what we want to,
Yeah. We're thinking about getting a third mic and getting our boy on here.
Yeah, I think there may be a 3-way special coming soon.
Yeah.
We are going to do the ultimate Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Which Coda says is not a Christmas movie, but we'll save that for the episode.
We'll have to debate that. I don't know where I stand on the debate. I need to rewatch it. Haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah. Also got some other stuff planned for the new year. We'll have to talk more about it.
I have been trying to assemble like a list. That's why I showed you. I'm trying to assemble like maybe a top 10 list or a top 5 list of 2022 movies.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even catch up on them together.
Yeah.
Like watch them for the podcast and discuss them.
Right.
What's left that I haven't seen.
Earlier months we were talking about doing a Black History Month thing.
Oh yeah, in February.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
But also, we got a little wiggle room. Let's just decide what to do in the day.
Yeah,
Hey,
let's just have some fun with it.
everybody be super casual.
Let's just watch Quigley again.
Quigley, this was my. What does he say? I watched this. I've been waiting. I saw the trailer when I was a kid, and I've been waiting to watch this movie. Nice.
That guy was real excited for Quigley.
This might get cut, but just because I was thinking of Southern Brad Pitt, I just remembered his one line where he's like, "Now, each and every man in my company takes on a debit. All of you men owe me 100 Nazi scalps.
Oh, yeah.
And I want my scalps."
And I want my scalps.
That's a great line.
Yeah, that's a great movie. We got to do more Tarantino, I think.
Soon.
Yeah, but thanks for hanging in there with us. We're pretty new at this, and this is how we evolve.
Yeah, so I think new year, new podcast will be a little more on the train as far as regular output, hopefully.
Yeah. We were also discussing the possibility of maybe doing a side gaming podcast or something. We talk about games. Actually, me and you are both really into music too. We could also do music stuff, perfect music podcasts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Try different things.
Vanko said, "Mike, we should do a podcast where we just talk about shit, like Jake Paul or Joe Rogan, man. Fuck it." So might just have a casual hangout type of style.
Yeah, like Jake Paul and Joe Rogan.
They said, "Man, fuck it."
That's great. Yeah, maybe we'll have to make some more room in here and get some more mics.
You might expand our horizons.
Yeah, man, this is how you do it. You gotta start small and keep evolving, kind of thing. So yeah.
All right. Until next time, folks.
Peace.
I feel like we need a good sign off.
Yeah, we need
a
ship on and ship out.
No, now I want to do the Nardwuar. Keep on rocking in the free world. Doot doodle doot doot.
Doot doot. Yeah. Nardwuar, we're taking that from you, bitch ass.
Fuck you. Look, I'm not a tough guy. I could beat up Nardwuar.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't even have to put in no real work for that, man.
Just hold his head at a distance.
I just love how in every Nardwuar interview it's like, "Dude, how do you know this about me?" And he's like, "You're Tyler the Creator, man. We have to know." It's like, "Man, how do you know this about me?"
Nardwuar is not a narc. He never gives up his intelligence sources. Nardwuar can show up with your used underwear from yesterday, and you'd be like, "What the fuck? I get that." He's like, "You're Tyler the Creator. We gotta have your used underwear."
Nardwuar is just in your house, man. He's under your bed. He's waiting for you.
The original Elf on the Shelf.
The Nardwuar.
Nardwuar going through your documents.
Nardwuar in your notebook.
All right.
Peace.